Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
No.
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. So the reason I'm so excited is because when I left home today, we had this thunderstorm watch in place, and for sure, like most of us had actually felt the effect of it because it wasn't a watch really. We felt it right on top of our heads when we were driving here. But now, I don't know if you looked outside, we have this beautiful sunshine outside. So just Mother Nature is trying to tell us a message too, which is, we always need a little bit of the storm to have the calm afterwards. And the storm has a reason for it. It's not a punishment, but everyone needs it. The water cleanses out a lot of things in the air, in the ground, like plants will leave because of that water, and all of a sudden we have the sun to make us all happy. So God and its perfect divine ways always teach us something. I would like to say good morning also to our friends that are connected with us on the internet, and welcome again. It's so nice to have you all here, and all of us that are incarnated and the discarnated ones that are present here in this room today. And with the same idea, we're going to go over a very inspirational lecture called Inspiration, Everyone's Mediumship by Tiago. And I'm really looking forward to this lecture because I think although we say we're inspired so many times in life, do we really know exactly what we're saying and what's happening? Why are we inspired? Inspired by what? How? Whom? And we'll see the role that in our daily life as a part of the mediumship that Allan Kardec brought to us so many years ago, explaining to us in more details what exactly is the mediumistic phenomenon. So let us get started then. I will invite Raquel Lee to read our inspirational message today, and then I'll have...
Very formal.
I know, it's fair. Yeah, I know.
Mrs. Lee.
Miss Lee, please.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
Good morning. So I'll read a passage of Gems from Francisco Cândido Xavier. Goodwill. Goodwill discovers work. Work creates the renovation. Renovation finds goodness. Goodness reveals the spirit of service. The spirit of service yields understanding. Understanding achieves humility. Humility conquers love. Love generates renunciation. Renunciation attains delight. Delights realize self-evolvement. Self-evolvement sanctifies the individual. A sanctified individual converts the world towards God. By walking prudently for simple goodwill, the individual will reach the divine kingdom of light. Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico.
Now we're going to have our opening prayer as we normally do, and then right after that we'll have the lecture. Just a quick reminder for all of you guys, we don't have the passes afterwards because this is our lunch and learn, so a special day for us. And we're going to be having, after the lecture, a delicious lunch that is provided to us. So it's all welcome to stay. So let us now connect with this good energy that emanates from the heart of our Master Jesus. As the rain that comes down to purify the air, to give life to earth and all the living beings in the universe, let us open our spiritual eyes to see the drops of energy that are also flowing from above, just as the water drops down from the skies. These good energies also fall on us, cleaning our spirits, giving us the energy that we need to continue this daily journey and connecting us closer and closer to our Father, Mother, God, who sees us from above, helping us all the way. Let us open our hearts and our minds for the words that are going to be thought here today. And may we all, using the words and the thoughts of Emmanuel and Tiago, can make this a better world by starting with us. Bless us all this morning, and let us start this beautiful day of learning. So be it. Tiago, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's very good to be here. And may the peace and the love of our Master Jesus be with all of us today. And I say the peace, and I believe that Marco Magalhães is very right when he says that it's a very beautiful day outside and there are reasons to be inspired. And one reason is because, I don't know if you know, but today is the International Peace Day, which is an incredible reason to be inspired, right? To be inspired, to think about peace, to think positively, right? To think about that sunshine after the storm, right? With so much storm all around, if we start envisioning that peace and that light ahead of us, probably our steps will follow and we will make a more peaceful life for ourselves and for those who are around us, right? And I'm very happy to present to you this lecture that talks about inspiration, because I feel that is a very inclusive, I call this a very inclusive mediumship, especially for some of us that have lots of questions. Am I a medium? I'm not a medium. Can I write, beautiful psychographies like Chico Xavier? Or no? If I don't have those special abilities, would I still be considered a medium or not? And some of the answers will come from understanding what inspiration is. And even more, we know that in this month we are talking about one specific book from Emmanuel that is called the Field or the Ministry of Mediums. And the message is called inspiration. And there is so much to take from that, and I hope that in 45 minutes I will be able to, to share with you some of the reflections that I had about it. First of all, some of us, like Mark said, we feel inspired sometimes, right? Sometimes we wake up and we say, I'm feeling inspired to cook something different, Some mathematician might say, today I'm feeling inspired, I'm going to solve that problem that is there in my blackboard for 3 months, Or I feel inspired to finish my thesis of my doctorate, And sometimes we have that feeling, we have that insight within us. And I believe that all of us in some point of our lives had that feeling, But then, so it means that inspiration, in that common sense, is something common to all of us. All humans can be inspired. But the question comes, is that mediumship? Is that really an effect of a connection between us and the spirits? And from everything that I'm taking a look here, I'd like to share with you that, yes, it is. And it is interesting because inspiration seems to be a rather disregarded kind of mediumship. Because many times we mix our thoughts with someone else's thoughts, with thoughts that come to our minds that we don't know where they come from. And many times we just take those thoughts away because we said, that's not me. I don't think like that. But at the same time, as we can see, this is one of the most common and frequent kinds of mediumship that we experience. And maybe after that lecture, we might be a little more aware and a little more attentive and take advantage of that mediumship that is part of all of us, in our benefit and in benefit for others. And for that, I am going to show I would divide the message from Emmanuel, that is called inspiration, in 3 parts to try to make it a little easier for us to understand. It is incredible how those messages, and I made a free translation, so please forgive me if there is something not very well understood, but the message is in Portuguese. I try to translate so then we all can read together piece by piece in order to try to understand. Emmanuel writes in a very dense way, so then every time that we read, we can unfold some different understandings from that. So the first part of his message called inspiration is, in any consideration on the mediumship, don't avoid the inspiration, a field open to all of us. And that we all can develop for the good, assimilating the thought from the higher realm. Okay, there is in one paragraph so much to think. If we go piece by piece, there is so much to take from. First of all, inspiration is mediumship, like we saw before, and Emmanuel proves to us. In consideration to mediumship, don't avoid the inspiration. It is mediumship. And many times it will happen as a thought, as the message says, and even if we don't realize. And then Allan Kardec, in the Medium's book, in the item number 182, he will talk about the inspired mediums, which is one of the categories of mediumship. And he will say that all those who either in a normal or ecstatic state receive mental communications as a foreign thought to our own preconceived ideas. If we receive a communication that is foreign, a thought that is different from our usual thoughts, it can be considered inspiration. So all of those who receive thoughts that are different from our usual thoughts of our daily lives can be considered inspired mediums. So first of all, this is a different thought. And again, that's the one that we really disregard. There is nothing to do with what I was thinking before. So why am I thinking about that? And I'm going to just toss that thought away. And other point that Allan Kardec makes, it is a spontaneous thought. Many people, especially, musicians, sometimes you are there in your shower, sometimes you're there in your sleep, and then suddenly that insight, that idea comes, that perfect song comes to your mind, and then you need to run. If you're having a shower, you're always all wet afterward. If you are sleeping, you trip on your pillow and everything, you trip on your part, but you need to write that down, because you know that 5 minutes after, this will vanish. And then sometimes you just need to record that idea. And sometimes it will happen with all of us. If we are focused or concentrating in some kind of task, and suddenly that idea comes, oh my gosh, that's it. And I need to put in practice in that moment, otherwise it would go away. Today with smartphones, so many people have those little applications that I'm going to record that idea, so then they say it, they write that down, because then it goes away. Think about that. We do that all the time, but we never thought that this is one kind of mediumship, right? are those thoughts good or not so good? And Allan Kardec would say that mostly, fortunately, they're mostly good thoughts. Because even if we are being influenced in a not so good way, there will be another thought that will come to help us to fight against that bad thought. And that is the inspiration. And that's the thought that will come to us as help, as an aid. So mainly they are good thoughts. And again, they will happen in every circumstance of life. They will happen anywhere, in any different aspect of our lives, independent of the things that we are doing. Which is great, because somehow we start understanding that maybe we have much more help than we imagine, right? And then the question is, are we using that help or not? You know? And the most interesting conclusion that right away I took from that, man, if it is mediumship, if it is good thought, if it happens with us all the time, oh, that means that always there is someone helping me. Always there is probably a spirit that is giving me a hand, that is there beside me, that understands what I'm thinking, that understands what I'm feeling, and that knows how to help me well. So it reveals the presence of a protector and a familiar spirit beside us. Isn't it such a hopeful and comforting idea that actually they are good? They are protecting us. They want us to better ourselves, to improve, to achieve that task that we are trying to perform well. And of course, the main conclusion that we can take, of course, we are all mediums. In fact, when we talk about mediumship, commonly we will talk about the psychography, the psychophony, those categories of mediumship that are very evident, that some people have within them, that they cannot even control, that they need to educate in order to use in a more appropriate environment, like the Spiritist Center, for instance. But yes, the inspiration is a form of mediumship, which means that we are all mediums. And again, Kardec will make sure that he will tell us that insights, a sudden eloquence that someone would have, if someone gives us an advice, for instance, that we were not expecting, maybe this person is being inspired. When we come to the fraternal meetings, right, and we receive certain advice, or we receive certain consoling words from someone that is there to listen to us and to share with us that moment, there is an inspiration involved with that. And for sure, they make our lives actually easier, because they know that if they were not there to help us, many times those tasks that we need to perform would take way longer, and it would be even harder for us to perform. So then when they come to our help, they know that they are speeding up that process for us. They are making our lives a little easier, and sometimes a lot easier. So I went further, and I tried to find in the works of Allan Kardec some questions that Allan Kardec would ask the spirits. And what would the spirits tell us about inspiration? And about what has to do with that universe of inspired mediums and inspiration? Because then I started to feel very curious. It's about me as well somehow. It's about us, right? So let's try to search a little deeper on that. So the first question, it was the question number 459, that right away Allan Kardec asks us, do spirits have any influence in our thoughts and actions? So it means that before the Medium's book, before that message from 1961, Allan Kardec, more than 100 years before, was already talking about that. And the spirits would tell him, the influence of the spirits in our lives is way greater than we suppose. And many times they are really guiding us. So many times we are being spared from a lot of trouble from our spiritual friends. And sometimes we don't know if we are taking a different route to go to work, or if we are just, coming close to someone for some reason. And there they were, the spirits helping us and guiding us. And then in the Medium's book, Allan Kardec asks the spirits, what is the primary cause of inspiration? And the spirits would say, mental communication from a spirit. Mental communication is a thought. Inspiration is a thought that comes to our mind. So then it is very clear. When I think about something that is unexpected as an insight, that is not part of my repertoire, that will help me, yes, you can say thank you. We are being inspired. Right? And it is incredible how this, for me, just in one phrase, just in one paragraph, how much we could unfold from Emmanuel's message. And think about, sometimes we think about those great scientists, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Edison, that had more than 1,000 times trying to create that light bulb using Tesla's invention. And, and then suddenly he creates that light bulb that was something that probably he would say was not supposed to work. And then suddenly it works. They are being inspired. So then, maybe they are important. I'm not important. They're not going to help me, right? But the spirits would tell us something different. Is inspiration only meant for great revelations? And the spirit would say no. It's almost always meant for the most common life circumstances. And they will answer Allan Kardec to prove to us once more that they are there for the most mundane tasks sometimes. And they are there for us. And finally, do individuals of intelligence and genius always draw their ideas from within themselves? Here it's about those great artists, those inventors, those scientists. But that is a very interesting point. If in normal tasks the Spirit will help us, can you imagine of great minds in the humanity that come to help all of us at once? With inventions like the electricity, with the mapping of the DNA, with finding a cure for a disease. So then the spirits even more will come to them, and knowing that they already have lots of ability, while they are in those moments of concentration, of focus, the spirits would say that in fact they are, and I would jump already for the other one, in moments when we are concentrated, when we are focused, we are using our spiritual part of us. More than only our brains, more than only our intelligence, but we are bringing our spiritual side. And the spirits would say, in those moments would be temporarily even detached or expanded from our material bodies. And the spirits would have even an easier access to influence us. So sometimes when we are in those moments of struggle, trying to do something important, wouldn't we think like, God help me? We are in fact evoking. We might not think about that. It might be just an explosion of, frustration or something like that. We are in fact involuntarily evoking the help of good spirits. Now think about that. If involuntarily evoking good spirits, we might receive the help. What about voluntarily asking for their help? Do we have that habit? Because the Spirit would tell us, St. Augustine there in the Spirit book, talking about the influence of the spirits in our corporeal life, would say, you ask too little. You don't burden us asking for those questions. We are here for you. God sent us here for you. So you must use it. If you have a tool to perform a task, why wouldn't you use it? If Sam didn't use the right tools to make the door there, what would happen? You would be trying until now, using a kitchen knife to cut the wood. No, there is the proper tool for that. Do we have those tools to perform better in our lives? To perform better, overcoming our limitations? Atoning from our imperfections? Ascending spiritually? Of course we do. We all do. Well, Jesus would already tell us, right? Be watchful and pray, for the Spirit is willing. So it is not only Allan Kardec that is telling us. Jesus is telling us way earlier, 2,000 years ago, we can do it. Watch and pray. Well, now that we are all mediums, right? We all receive help from the good spirits. They want us to be better. Now, Emmanuel, in his second part of the message, he would expose to us the risks and the responsibilities of being a medium. If you remember, last week, if you don't remember, go to the internet, but if you remember, Vera was talking a lot about our conduct on being a medium. So then we know that our virtues put in practice are a good recipe for good life and also a good recipe for good use of mediumship. The humbleness, the simplicity, the peace of mind, the goodwill, the sincere desire, the benevolence. All of those qualities are qualities for life and also qualities for well-use the mediumship. However, Emmanuel will expose to us all the risks of having that ability and not using well. It is long. We're not going to read everything. But we'll point out, I put in bold letters, because if we could see and we don't help others to guide or to help them to see, Emmanuel tells us that we would be like a fancy lens. If we could speak in a village of mute people and we don't help them to speak, we'll be like a walking turntable. Those images are so powerful. We become like a machine that performs without feeling, without good intentions, right? If we are able to move freely and we don't help those to achieve their ability to move, we will be like a rare and abnormal bird that looks like a human. It is incredible how powerful he can be. And if we stop and we pay attention on the meaning, he's really giving us a very serious alert, right? And if we could hear and we don't help others to understand, would be like a sound recorder. And ultimately, and that one for me was very powerful, if we are teaching logic for a colony of mentally ill persons, but we don't help them to recover reason, we would be like an archive of unintelligible statements, empty words. Coming here, speaking to all of you, feeling great and not being careful if you're going to understand what I'm talking about. Right? This is really powerful. if we have the ability and we don't put them in practice. Again, Jesus told us about the virtues, first of all, in the beautiful Beatitudes, but also he said that if you are the salt of the world and you lose your saltiness, you are wasted. If you light the lamp and you put underneath the table, you lose it. If you have those beautiful words that you profess in front of others, but you don't mean them, that's what we are. And the interesting thing is, Emmanuel is so involved with the gospel of Jesus, understanding the meaning of the gospel, and also the apostles, because the first thing that came to my mind, it reminded me very well the first letter of Paul to Corinthians, right? If we had the ability to speak in tongues, if we could prophesy. And for me, this is a clear reference to mediumship, right? But if we don't have the love, if we don't mean it, if we don't have the usefulness, Paul would say that we are like a noisy gong that would only make noise and mean nothing. Here we are receiving again the same message. Jesus, Paul, Kardec, Emmanuel. So many messages because we need it, right? And we do need, So before we complain because we cannot write those beautiful messages like Chico Xavier, before we cannot profess those beautiful lectures like Valdo Franco, before we cannot make those beautiful inventions like Leonardo da Vinci, we need to remember that God gave us the tools that we need to perform well in this existence. We have enough. And maybe we're not even taking full advantage of using the full potential of our own abilities. Being inspired is something that we can practice. To listen to the voice of our good spirits that know about our incarnation, that probably planned that incarnation together with us, that know about our steps. They know where we trip easier. They know the way that usually we take more than others. Taking advantage of their inspiration is a responsibility, is not a privilege anymore. Because as mediums we have responsibility. Now we come to the last part of Emmanuel's message, and it reminds us that when we follow the morals, when we are aware of the importance of using this universal mediumistic ability, when we dial to the right channel with our familiar and protector spirits, we are able to perform much better. That's the last part. Do not affirm that you are incapable of serving because you don't have a wide access to unusual. So let's not wait for that ideal moment or that ideal situation. When I have that ability, after I practice for 3 or 4 years, then I will start, doing charity. Then I will start helping others. When I have more money, I can help that organization, When I have a car, I can go further to visit that friend. Simple things to the most important ones. The ability to help is here and now. We are the best that we can offer to others in this very moment. In fact, we don't need anything else. And then he warns us, a psychic resource without no good use is like an isolated intelligence or dead money. And this is an excellent source of vanity and greed. We all know that the good that we don't put in practice is already evil. Allan Kardec would tell us already, right? And in every occasion, observe the usefulness of our acts, the usefulness of our abilities that we are trying to acquire, to develop, and the tasks that we are trying to perform. We have a responsibility for that. And assure us that we need to synchronize with the higher reigns in the universe. We have different layers of vibration that we can dial to. It is up to us to search that frequency that will connect us in the best station for us to receive that inspiration. It is up to us. How do we do that? We practice. And we're going to tell a little bit how do we practice that. Because if we don't use that in good use, if we don't use that well for the benefit of everyone, remember the talents, right? That were given to the servants when the master left in the parable of the talents. All of those who used well what was given by the master, multiplied. And the one who buried that talent in the ground, even what he had has been taken. So sometimes if something lacks on us, who knows, maybe we didn't put this in a good use before. If today we are searching for that ability and we still don't have, it's because maybe we're in this moment learning how to give value for what we don't have temporarily. So then whatever we have today, let's make sure that we are keeping and we are multiplying for tomorrow. This message was written in a public meeting. In that public meeting, the participants were talking about the item number 218 of the Medium's book. The source of that message from Emmanuel came from that passage. That is really beautiful. Because mediumship is only one of the means of communication. And is not only the only way to promote the attraction of the good spirits. So beautiful when he says that a father doesn't abandon his son, even if he is blind and deaf. Even if we don't see the spirits, even if we don't hear the spirits, it doesn't mean they are not helping us. They are here helping us even more, because through the inspiration they can guide us in a way that sometimes we don't even realize. And you know what? Many times we feel so good when we do something. And we have that feeling, and they want us to have that feeling. They are good enough not to want reward for that help that they are giving us. They are teaching us something as well. They are helping us to feel good with what we do in our lives. This is incredible. And the last part of the item number 218 tells us, Allan Kardec tells us the formula. He gives us the perfect recipe to search for that inspiration. Fervently and confidently evoke our protector spirit in times of need. And we will more assiduously wonder at the ideas that arise as if by magic, whether for help in making in making decisions, or in something that we need to do. So Kardec tells us, inspired by the spirits for sure, and receiving a lot of guidance, that they are here for us, and we must voluntarily, that is the best that we can do. If involuntarily they help us, can you imagine if we ask? Of course. Jesus already told us, ask and will be given to you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. For everyone that asks, they will receive. Everyone who searches finds it. For everyone who knocks, the door will be open. This is the words of our Master Jesus that are there in the book of Matthew, in the chapter 7. Not only that, Mark also had the chance to hear from Jesus, whatever you may ask for in prayer, believe you will receive it, and it will be granted to you. Let us fervently and confidently evoke our protective spirits. Prayer. Thanking God, thanking Jesus, and thanking the spirits for helping us during the day. When we wake up, our morning prayer, as would say, as our grandmothers would teach us, don't forget to, say thank you for the day, say thank you for whatever we have, Ask Jesus to be ahead of us. How many times we would hear that from our, elders, Let them go ahead of us, and they will open the way for us, right? Are they going to take away the problems for us? No. But they will help us to think better to solve the problems that we need to solve in our lives. For sure. So let's not wait for the ideal conditions. The conditions are here and now. And the best tool that we have is ourselves. Is our own spirit. Again, we say here many times, that's our best incarnation, that's our best time. We are in our best shape, spiritually speaking, right now. Whatever limitation we have is a way for us to progress. Our spiritual friends are here with us all the time. And even though today there is no passes like we see, our spiritual friends for sure already gave us the passes that we need. So we may be blessed that already we received, like any other weekend, the passes that we need. The energies that we are waiting for to receive in order to go on with our days. I hope that it was a good time. I felt very inspired by that. And I hope that like Emmanuel inspired me, he can inspire all of us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiago. Don't run away. We have 5 minutes for questions, so...
you are hungry, you are hungry.
I know, it's just 5 minutes.
You are hungry.
We'll survive. See, the door is closed. It's much better now. We don't, smell it. Okay. Any questions? No, I have a question, though.
Okay.
So, I think it was amazing.
Let me look in my notation.
No, it's not really a question. It's just a comment. That I know it was amazing that you talked about inspiration. But now, maybe, can you give us a hint of what to do when we hear the inspiration and 99% of the time we don't do anything about it? At least my own experience.
Yeah, well, for me as well. When those thoughts sometimes seem very weird, seem very different from usually how we think, it is difficult, in fact. It is more difficult than we might think. But if we put in practice and get rid of our discomfort to act in a way that usually we don't, get away from that comfort zone that doesn't let us change, that doesn't let us move, that doesn't let us, take that risk. Sometimes we are in a line of thought. I remember the book that we had, What is the Course of Our Thoughts? That, we learn in the spiritual world. So, if we try again, may take a while, in those moments when we are with ourselves, To hear our thoughts, we need to get away from the noises of the world. We need to let ourselves receive those thoughts, more unusual that they can be. Try to express them. Try to put them in practice. If once we do it, we might be surprised with the result. And being surprised with that result, if it is a good result, we might understand that it is an inspired thought. But again, I believe that has a lot to do with getting away from that comfort zone that we have to have our line of thoughts all the time in the same way. Yes?
I think that comfort zone that you're talking about, it's actually our vices. It's the one that hold us back from us doing most of the time something that is gonna take us into the line of progress. So it's sometimes, like the voices, the noises, some can be the rationalization for not doing what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, ask for forgiveness or love or forget something, because especially coming from our spiritual guides, this is what they want for us.
Yeah.
They want us to go into the moral path that we should be taking in this lifetime.
Yeah. Just 1 second. Sorry, it just came to mind. A couple of people said that here before.
You were inspired.
No, it was more a memory, I believe. Not that far. But that very question, what Jesus would do in that moment. If the good spirits are here with us, they are here because Jesus allowed them to be here. And probably they are here under His direction, His governance. So if we go back to the gospel and we realize at the end of the day, oh, that thought that I had, that I resisted, that word that I could have said to someone, that I resisted, maybe Jesus would say that, Yes.
No, it's just kind of trying to understand better when we start having thoughts that it's kind of doesn't comply with our, it's very negative thoughts, and then it comes, and then we feel that it's sometimes not even within our own, kind of goodwill, and think, why am I thinking about that? And then in that moment, how kind of we can shift that. So decide, because I think it's important to kind of consider those negative thoughts as well, not just shifting them. Because from what you're saying, if they coming back, without me kind of predicting it and having control. So what did you say about that?
Well, thank you. You were very right. And again, we know that the spirits influence us all the time. Good and not so good. And I believe that I would say just, from my part, learning, studying, trying to understand, morally what is the best way, to conduct ourselves. If that negative thought would come, for sure, I would try to, search for that help of our good spirits. Think about Jesus, think about our protector spirits, and say, yes, acknowledge, first of all, I'm having a bad thought in this moment. I'm thinking with anger about someone. First of all, I should not deny we are made of light and shadow still. But acknowledge that, and at the same time, welcome that and say, yes, if I am having that thought, is because part of me still is angry. Part of me still is resented. Part of me still doesn't want to forgive. But you know what? Let me make that effort. Maybe that's not the time to say anything. Maybe that's not the time to react to something or that someone told us. And search for that help that comes from a different, spiritual realm, a higher spiritual frequency that would then help us to recover our good thoughts And again, search for that inspiration. Pray for us. Forgive ourselves for having that thought and holding that. We don't need to, externalize, but acknowledge first of all, and then ask for the help to really transform that. Because the same energy that we have to be angry, we will have that even more energy to forgive, for instance.
So we have one more question.
Mine is not ask it, but a comment. When you're talking about asking, you will receive. It's not a lot of, not any asks. You need asking a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people making mistakes. Asking, give me a car, give me money, give me. So it's not any kind of asking.
And sometimes even if we are asking for this car, sometimes what we receive is that the car that we already have is going to break, and we're going to spend a couple of months taking the bus. So then we're going to give a value for that little old car that we had before. And maybe that's the message that the Spirit will give us, You're asking for, a new pair of shoes. And God will, break your flip-flops. And then you need to go there and to fix. And then you realize, I have enough.
These are pretty good in the end.
In the end.
And even when you're not asking for material things, you're just asking because we're going through some problem and you ask for answers. We have always to remember the answers is what we need, not what we want. Because even when we're not asking for material things, I want an answer, but I want the answer. Because I want to solve my problem in this. I already know, I just want you to tell me that's the way. And sometimes the answer comes no. So the problem is actually this other way. Wow, but I don't want to take this other way because to solve my problem this way is way easier for me, so I want it this way, but that's not the correct way of solving. It's the other way, it's the hardest way.
Yeah.
So then what we do, I brush it aside, that inspiration, because it's not what I wanted to hear. But our conscious, especially the more you study, your conscious tells, but you know that this is the right way to correct. But my advice tells me that I don't want to correct it this way, I want to correct it this way. So that's why sometimes it's also easy for us to brush aside whatever inspiration we get. And that's why I think it's very, very important for us to study more and more the gospel and understand. Because I think it will help us every time we have an inspiration to study that inspiration and match it and have a better understanding of, is this really coming from a good spirit as inspiration or not? Should I follow or not? Because the more you have knowledge, the more your conscience is going to help you study that inspiration and actually say, you know what, as much as I don't like it, this is the right way to do, because this actually matches your gospel. That's what I should do.
So we feel we're very mature, but try asking a 2-year-old whether they want to sleep over or they want to go to school. That's the same thing for us. Ask ourselves whether we want to do the right thing, which is actually not the easy one to do, or we just want to keep going with our vices and having fun. I can guarantee you 90%, 99% of us will say, I'm very mature, I know what I'm doing, but actually no, you're not doing what's right for you. But it's like the 2-year-old that doesn't want to go to school. That's us, basically. So we have one more question?
Yeah, there are two friends here, one from Abu Dhabi.
There you go.
Senor José
Musi.
says hi.
Hello.
And Ekaterine, your dear friend Ekaterine, she asks that sometimes we cannot discriminate whether our thoughts are good or bad inspiration. How do we do that? How do we differentiate?
The best manual that you can have is called the Gospel of Jesus Christ. It gives you the recipe. It gives you the right amount of that sugar or that salt or that flour, and will give the quality of the material that we will buy. And then you can discriminate. If it is not by ourselves, it will be, we came with a manual, and that is the gospel.
We have a pocket guide that says, don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. Like if you start with that rule, probably you're doing 95% of the right things, and then love one another. So I think if you're following those two rules independently of what's happening in the world, you're doing fine.
You will discriminate easily.
It's a good way to discriminate it. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Tiago, one more time.
Thank you very much.
Great having you here.
Thank you.
And I know I'm not going to take too much time. I know kids are all excited. They want to go to school. No. And the big kids here want to have something to eat. So just want to remind you guys of our regular activities. We have the Gospel Mediums book on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And both here and through the web, on our webcast. We have the Introduction to Spiritism and now also the Heaven and Hell on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Again, here and online. And public lectures every Sunday at 11. And the third Sunday of the month is a Lunch and Learn. And today we're enlightened by not only by the knowledge here that Tiago brought to us, by the nourishment and the great food that Teresa and Aline and Alessandra brought to us today. So I know everyone's going to be very excited about it. Fraternal assistances on Wednesday and Thursdays starting at 5:30 by appointment. Just drop us a line and we'll be more than happy to accommodate you. And Katarina is not here today, but she's taking care of the gospel at home. So if anyone wants to start the gospel at home, want to know how to do it and want to get a hand start in it, Katarina will go to your place and we'll pray together and get the ball rolling pretty much. So everyone will have a feeling of what is it. Nothing special about it, really. We're praying, but like if you need the kickstart, she's very happy to help us all. And now, just before we go ahead and have some lunch, I would like to have our final prayer. And our final prayer, considering that we don't have passes, but just realize that our spiritual friends are here and they are helping us during the whole lecture. So that's why inspirations come and go, and that's how we have to be always watching for their presence around us. So let us all at this moment think about the image of our Mother, Father God that created us all, created everything we know, and gave us a chance to learn, to be better, to be perfect. A road that's full of mistakes and errors, but is also full of love and charity among us all. Like flowing down a river, making the turns, sharp twists, we always can see the blessings of nature and the new chances that come from every perspective. Let us all be inspired by the words of our Master Jesus Christ that taught us in the very beginning that loving one another is the real medication for our souls. May God bless us this week and allow us to keep in our hearts the seeds of love that are being seeded here in this place. And maybe one day, we'll be like Paul of Tarsus, the real messenger of the words of the God. Thank you all, my dear friends, and have a wonderful day, and so be it. Okay, so we're going to set up